It is draft time, folks. It is draft time. How's everybody doing out there? Keep It a G Real podcast. Your boy, Evan. It's been a minute. We're back. Draft is Thursday. I'm going to be doing my post-free agency mock draft. Hopefully no free agent, shit takes place between then and there. I mean, there's rumors that Leonard Fournette might get traded or Yannick Ngakoue might be traded. If the Leonard Fournette trade happens to some of the teams that I think he could possibly go to, it might screw my mock draft up. But I hope everyone's doing well out there during everything going on with the COVID-19 virus and everyone's confined to their homes. I probably should have started pumping out some more sooner, but I've been busy with schoolwork. Been doing just schoolwork and streaming and stuff like that. No one's really allowed to go anywhere. So, yeah, weird times, everyone. I just figured get some content out while everyone's inside, take advantage of the Rona situation. But yeah, so we're just going to do a quick podcast today, and I'm going to be showcasing my mock draft. And the way I'm going to be doing this mock draft for the NFL draft this year is, we know there's going to be trades all the time. There's always trades. Almost every single year. I don't know if I can recall a draft where a team did not trade. So for the sake of this, I think that I'm going to do my mock draft I'm just only going to do the first two rounds. I have a handful of them that I did. I think I did. This would be, I'm trying to think. This would be the fourth version of this mock draft that I've done without the trades. I did a couple with trades. The problem is with the trades, you can't really predict who's going to trade up. It doesn't matter how much draft capital a team has. Some teams just like to hop up out of nowhere. It'll be some random team. And obviously there's some strategy involved. Teams try to pigeonhole other teams. If you're a team that's in the same division as another team, you're not going to trade to them. Or maybe you might not want to trade specific players to a team if you're in the same conference, because it's that trade could happen, and then that team could just get the pieces it needs to put it over the top, maybe even beat you, things of that nature. So this is going to be strictly no trades in this mock draft, and this is going to be what I would do. That's the other caveat to this. I'm not going to try to guess what teams do because teams are fickle. You never know exactly, what they're going to do. We're not behind closed doors with these teams and stuff. So this is just going to be strictly what I would do if I was the coach or general manager at each specific spot with these players. And it was hard to do this because there's a lot of really, really good players in this draft, in my opinion, at most positions. I think, in my opinion, the shallowest positions are linebacker and safety. But there's some mid-tier linebackers that I do like. But for safety for me, it drops off pretty heavily after the first couple guys. So every other position is stacked, and there's, like I was saying before about the players that I like, there's players that I really like that, based off the needs of the teams and what I think they're going to do, or not what I think they're going to do, based off the position of need and what I chose to do, drove some players down that I like in this. There's a couple players that I have going in the second round that I think are first round talents, and I'll talk about them when I get there. So yeah, we'll just hop right into this and see how it goes, see what everyone thinks. Starting with, it's like a blessing and a curse at the same time. My Cincinnati Bengals, my favorite team, they're picking number 1 overall this year. We're 2-14. I will say, as disclaimer, probably one of the more talented 2-14 teams. We have talent on our team at various spots. Let's just hope that, through the draft, we picked up some free agents this year. So hopefully this draft really bolsters up. But I think we're obviously, without trades, the number 1 pick is definitely going to be Joe Burrow. I mean, what is there not to like about Joe Burrow, really? I mean, he literally, there's nothing he's bad at on tape. He's super accurate. He can read multiple levels in his progressions down the field, middle of the field, short stuff. He throws guys open. He's just super, super accurate. A lot of high-level, tight NFL, tight into zone throws, and he's really good at throwing to dudes in man. He loves it when he gets man matchups. Like, he makes some serious, like, back shoulder throws to the sideline where only his wide receiver can get it. I also like his ability to scramble and make improvisational plays. You know, there's one play in particular he had I forget what game tape it was, where he knew by the way the routes were going to progress and the team was in man that no one would be in the middle of the field. He dropped back, hung in the pocket, and then just sprinted up the middle field for like a 16-yard gain or some shit and slid. But great leader, crazy production. They beat 7 top 10 teams last year. 7 top 10 teams in their 11-game regular season. Smoked everybody. Joe Burrow's the real deal. He's got the ideal height, size. The only negatives of Joe Burrow's game is the arm strength. I would say he is about, average to a little slightly above average arm strength. Like, his arm strength would probably be like an 88 or an 89 if you're like talking about Madden. Like, you know what I'm saying? But Joe Burrow's definitely the pick. Just can make every single throw. Can dissect any defense that's in front of him. And I just don't think he's going to need a lot of work when he comes in. Obviously, he's going to have to adapt to the speed at the next level and stuff like that. But yeah, Joe Burrow's, if I was picking to the Bengals, I'm taking Joe Burrow. Number 2 is the Washington Redskins. Now, Washington was 10th in sacks last year. I do think they're going to chase, if they stayed put, I think they would take Chase Young, and I do think that's the pick they're going to pick. I don't think they're trading. If I was Washington, I'd be open to some trades because you have bigger holes on your team than pass rusher. I know Ryan Kerrigan's getting a little older, but Chase Young's an animal. Like, he's 6'5", 260, fast, super explosive, bendy guy, high motor, and he can do everything. He's stout in the run game. He has a wide array of attacks when he's rushing. His bull rush is nasty. Chase Young's an absolute beast, but if I wouldn't be surprised if they trade back, because they could easily trade back to 5 and take a tackle and get a bunch of draft capital from Miami, or maybe trade back to 5 and take a corner, which is probably corner and tackle their 2 biggest needs. They could easily trade back to Miami if Miami wanted to trade up to 2 to take a quarterback, and the Detroit would take Young, and then Jeff Okudah would be sitting right there. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to stay put. I think they're going to take who's easily the best defensive end prospect. He had 46 tackles, 6 forced fumbles, 3 passes batted down. He blocked a kick too in 2019. He had 16 sacks. 16.5 sacks. Kid's an animal. I think this is definitely the surefire pick. They tried to be like, he wasn't that productive the last 3 games of the regular season. We don't like to see him finish strong through all that, but the kid had 16.5 sacks in one of the better divisions in college football. He went up against a lot of good offensive linemen too, so Chase Young's definitely the pick. Number 3, now this number 3 pick was hard for me because Adam will probably like this, but because of the rules in the NFL, and you're not really allowed to really touch receivers and knock them off their routes, and it's just hard to play physical against receivers, and in my opinion, it makes it harder to cover them. I value pass rush and controlling the line of scrimmage over coverage. I personally think that if your front 7 is solid in terms of dominating the line of scrimmage and getting after the quarterback, it's just my opinion, you don't need crazy players on the back end of your defense. You don't have to have all pro defensive players to be a good defense on the back end of your defense. So for me, originally I wanted to take either Derek Brown or Javon Kinlaw. And we're going to get to them in a little bit because anyone that actually likes football and has actually studied these players like me are not going to like my take on Kinlaw and Brown. But when I looked at the Detroit Lions depth chart, I didn't know a single person in the corner part of their depth chart. Like, I don't know a single person there. They're like journeymen and young kids. They still have some guys up front. And I just feel as though they have some decent front seven players. I'm taking Jeffrey Okudah if I was Detroit. Jeffrey Okudah is one of the surefire prospects in this draft, hands down. Okudah just straight up blankets people. I think his statistics as far as efficiency and coverage, like how well he blanketed dudes, was like, I think, oh my God, what was the stat? It was something crazy. Like, he's only given up a reception on 14% of plays gone his way or some crazy shit. I'm trying to find that actually. I mean, but I can't find the actual stat, but he's wicked well rounded. He does everything. He's wicked good at preventing separation down the field vertically, and he has more than enough speed to keep up with everybody. And he's got really good hips, really agile, really good at blanketing people. He's not afraid to sit in there and take a tackle. He's tough as nails. Really long. I love his man skills. He played a lot of man at Ohio State, so I don't know to what degree, depending on what he's going to play man in Detroit, because that's what Matt Patricia does. He puts his dudes out, man. That's why Darius Slay would have been so coveted if they could keep him. But he's definitely a number one cornerback, and I think he's one of the surefire players to be Pro Bowl level. He reminds me of a smaller Jalen Ramsey. He reminds me of a smaller, like a more leaner Jalen Ramsey. But yeah, Jeff Okudah would be my pick at number 3. He's a beast. And this one was hard for me too. So number 4, the New York Giants. My favorite player in the draft, and I think he's the number 1 player in the draft, which is Isaiah Simmons. I have the Giants taking Isaiah Simmons at number 4, and I know if Adam hears this, he's not going to like it, because he's like, we already got linebackers and stuff like that. But the linebackers they signed weren't that good, in my opinion. Like, you got that cog there with Blake Martinez, who's just a first and second gap run stuffing tackle machine. He's going to give you 150 tackles next year. It's like guaranteed. He's like the Hispanic Brian Cushing. He's just going to run in there and fucking obliterate people. But you need more than that at the linebacker position. And I truly believe that Isaiah Simmons is the best player in the draft. And I really believe he'd be perfect for the Giants defense. He could do everything. This is a guy that had almost 100 tackles this year at Clemson, right? And he had 100 tackles, 7 sacks, 3 interceptions, 12 passes deflected. And he comes into the combine. I'm like, man, he looks fast on tape. He came in the combine and proved that he was just as athletic on tape as I thought he was. He ran he weighed in at 239 pounds. He was 6'4". The dude's built like John Jones. And he ran a 4.3 something, like a 4.38. Isaiah Simmons is a can't miss defensive prospect. I feel as though he will be an off-ball linebacker with the Giants. I think he'll be an off-ball linebacker with the Giants. I think they run the rumors they might be converting to a 3-4, which means you could do anything with him. You could bring him off the edge. You can have him play inside, run back forth to tackle everyone. He could even be an in-box safety. He could do a little bit of everything. He's just an amazing prospect. I love this player, and I think the Giants are going to take him solely because I know people don't like it, but they still got Nate Solder there at left tackle. He's a solid left tackle. Like, he's serviceable, and they have him under contract for a year or two longer, which means you don't have to rush out there and go hog wild and get a left tackle right this second. I think what they need a right tackle. So later on down the board, I'm pretty sure I have them taking a right tackle to help with that run game. So that's why I took Isaiah Simmons here at number 4. I just feel like if the Giants think they could get a tackle later on in the draft, which there's some good mid-tier tackles that could potentially be starters, especially guys that are more run-oriented, which is what the Giants will need on that right side. I think they should take him at this pick. And this next pick, number 5, Miami Dolphins, might be the most controversial pick in all the draft because he's starting to slide now, but personally, I think the Dolphins aren't going to be a bad football team this year. I don't think they're necessarily going to be phenomenal, but I think they're not going to be bad. I think they're going to be a tough out. I think they could win more games than they won last year. So what does that mean? You're not in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes anymore, most likely. Now, they do have 2 first-round picks next year, but it's hard when you're not going to be a first round pick next year, when you're not going to get that number 1 overall pick next year. Any team that doesn't have a quarterback that falls number 1 is taking Trevor Lawrence. I have to go watch more film on Landry Fields, so this is suspect to change as far as where Landry Fields will drop, or what is it, Landry Fields? Justin Fields drops in the draft next year. But I just think with what Miami's got going on right now, they spent a bunch of money on the defensive side of the ball. I think this draft is going to be all offense. They're going to load up on offensive line. They're going to want to get a quarterback. They're going to get offensive weapons. I'm going all in on offense right here with the Miami Dolphins. I'm taking Tua. There's obviously the injury concerns with Tua, but you could sit him behind, what's his name there? Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year if you're really concerned, and you could slowly wean him into learning this offense and wean him into the games. Fitzpatrick's getting old. He's probably just playing football and hitting the whiskey all the time. He's probably drunk when he's out there. He just looks like he hits the bourbon. But I know everyone's concerned with the injuries, and now everyone's like, oh, Tua scored really bad on the Wonderlic test. There's dudes that scored bad on the Wonderlic test and that were ballers. All I know is when I watch him on tape, Alabama, their passing system is consisted of they throw the ball deep, but that's the type of passing system where you only have to make like 1 or 2 reads usually. But he can make more reads than that. He can read defenses, throw the ball. His deep ball is excellent, fast release. He's ultra accurate. I don't like the comparisons to Drew Brees. I think he's a different player than Drew Brees. He's a little more mobile. But he has good arm strength. Like, I think he has above average arm strength, not like elite or anything, above average. Like, I always got to compare it to Madden. His arm strength on Madden, probably like a 91. But he's just crazy accurate with a wicked quick release. I watched a play the other day where the backside defensive end on him rips and bends across and around this tackle and is on him. And I swear to you, he was so close to Tua that you could whisper in his fucking ear almost. And Tua cocked back, and his release was so quick that even in that short window, he got that ball out and got it to Henry Ruggs down the sideline. I love Tua's game in the passing. Super accurate, makes the proper play, strong arm, quick release. The only things that I don't like about Tua is obviously I'm just as concerned about the injuries as everyone else, but I feel like you got to take the chance. Second thing is he is decently mobile, but some of the comparisons, some people like to compare him to Russell Wilson, which I don't agree with that because Russell Wilson's super mobile. I think Tua thinks he's more mobile than he is, and that's why he's been hurt so much. If he goes to Miami, that coaching staff should really ingrain it in his head that he needs to just stay in the pocket and throw the damn football. Run in his last resort. He can run a little bit, sure, enough to stretch the field, but he needs to focus on keeping his eyes up and throwing the ball down the field when he gets out on the move. He's not Russell Wilson. He's not Deshaun Jackson. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not those guys. He's got enough mobility. Oh, speaking of his mobility, in my opinion, his mechanics in the pocket, as far as footwork and stuff, are just as good as Burrow's. Their feet never click. They're always on base. They're always on pace. They're slidey and shifty. They don't plot around. They're not like fucking lumbering around back there. Everything's just like, pop, pop, pop. Really good stepping. I like Tua as a prospect. I don't think he's as good as Burrow, but I just feel the state that the Miami Dolphins are in, you have to take Tua Tagovailoa right here. You have to take him. Because you're not getting Lawrence next year. Because Jacksonville's gonna suck. They're gonna suck next year. They're probably gonna have the number 1 overall pick. They lost all their players. Now the 6th overall pick. This is where the draft really starts to get interesting for me. A lot of people think the Chargers are gonna take a quarterback. However, I do not. I'm taking Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Now a lot of people like all the other offensive tackles in this draft, but what I actually really do like 3 of these offensive tackles in this draft, but the way these offensive tackles start to drop in my mock is based off what the team needs. Does the team need a left tackle, right tackle, experienced tackle? So for Los Angeles Chargers, I think that the Los Angeles Chargers could be really bad next year. They have guys that are getting older on defense. They got guys that are always injured. They lost one of their best running backs. I mean, I like the kid that's there better than Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler, but they still have him, Austin Eckler, but I think that they could be in the running next year for the number 1 overall pick. Trying to find my window. There it is. I think they could be in the running next year for the #1 overall pick. So I'm not taking a quarterback here. I'm taking Andrew Thomas. He's a 4-year starter at Georgia. He has one of the highest passing grades according to multiple spots like PFF, Pro Football Focus. He's just very experienced. He's really good in the pass game, really stout in the run blocking game. I love Andrew Thomas, and I like experienced tackles. I don't like taking chances on young tackles that are inexperienced if they have to. He's fundamentally sound. Andrew Thomas is my pick out of Georgia, left tackle out of Georgia. I think they need a left tackle. So now number 7 is the most controversial part of my draft. Probably out of the few that I said were controversial. Is I'm taking Carolina Panthers. Like I said, I do believe you got to bolster your defensive line and your front 7 because pass rush is important. That being said, a lot of people like Derek Brown the most out of all these defensive tackles. I, however, do not. I like Derek Brown a lot. He's my second best D tackle. He's a phenomenal, well-rounded defensive tackle, physical beast. In my comparison to him, he reminds me of Ndamukong Suh, right? He's an anchor. He's an anchor, well-rounded defensive tackle, uber athletic. But I like Javon Kinlaw better because I like Javon Kinlaw can do all that stuff, and Javon Kinlaw is a way better pass rusher already and has potential to be a really good pass rusher up the middle. So Carolina Panthers, they're going to start bolstering up that defense after they've lost some good defensive players. They're taking Javon Kinlaw, interior defensive lineman for South Carolina. Love the player. He's so explosive, it's not even funny. For a dude his size, 6'6", 320 pounds, I think he'll be a force. I think Javon Kinlaw is going to be a force at the next level. And then number 8, the Arizona Cardinals, I got them taking offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs. Now, a lot of people think that he's a guard, but as athletic as this kid is at his age, height, and weight, he was 6'5". I think he weighed almost 330, but I couldn't see where that 330 was because he is jacked. He's built like an action figure. He's not fat like the rest of all these other guys, and I think he could play tackle or guard, whichever. I like him for Arizona because Arizona likes to run that offense with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. They're going to need a guy, whether he's a guard or tackle, who can go do all the quick RPO style stuff, get out, pull, all that happy crap that they do out there, the funky little plays. He's going to be perfect for the Arizona Cardinals. So number 9, the team that needs a defensive tackle as much as anybody else, Jacksonville Jaguars, finally take Derek Brown. The reason why I took Derek Brown for the Jacksonville Jaguars, like I said, he's an anchor. He's well-rounded, could do it all. They do not have, I think one of their starting D tackles is Taven Bryan, and like, he's solid, but he's nothing you want to, you don't want him being your best defensive tackle. There's a good chance it might lose Yannick Ngakoue. He doesn't want to play. I just seen something on Twitter where he was like calling his owner's son a brat and all this shit, and he wants to be traded. So he'll probably be gone, and he'll probably get traded in the next 2 days, and along with Leonard Fournette, and ruin my fucking mock. If they both get traded, this team's going to suck. And good luck to whoever gets drafted number 1 overall next year. So Derek Brown, Jacksonville's Jaguars, tag him, bag him. And number 10, Cleveland Brown. Now, again, with these tackles, it's based off what teams need. I decided here I wanted to go to Jedrick Wills because the Browns need a left tackle because they just signed Jack Conklin. But I think with their power running style and a lot of teams projecting that Mekhi Becton is going to be a left tackle, I'm taking Mekhi Becton for the Cleveland Browns, left tackle out of Louisville. Now, Mekhi Becton's the most raw out of all these high-level tackles, but he's a freak athlete. He's absolutely massive. He's 6'7", 200 or 340 something pounds. He ran a 5'1" at the combine. That's absolutely fucking ridiculous. When you watch him on tape, he's a straight up fucking mauler. He has the athleticism if he gets coached right to be a left tackle, I think. But where he shines is the run game. You can go turn his tape on. He's just throwing people 10 yards down the field. It's absolutely ridiculous. A lot of people are like, oh, well, he really doesn't finish on his blocks. It's like, why do you need to finish on a block when you literally pick a dude up by his shoulder, his chest pads, and throw him 10 feet? Sure, you got to teach him to scrape and go to the next guy. But, like, there's nothing to be finished. He picks dudes up and he just throws them out of the play. Like, he's a beast. A lot of people are dropping him because of the experience factor, but I think he's going to fit what the Browns want to do. They're going to line him up and they're just going to try to pound the rock. And that's what they should do to help out Baker Mayfield. Now, here comes the run on the wide receivers. Number 11 for the New York Jets. They could go tackle here, but I think you can get tackles later on in this draft in the second round, and I'm going to take the best wide receiver prospect in the draft. One of the best wide receiver prospects I've seen in a handful of years, Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver from Alabama. And my buddy Adam and I have been chopping it up about these wide receivers at work, and when we're hanging out and stuff like that. And I don't understand why everyone wants all these scouts like CeeDee Lamb more than Jerry Jeudy. CeeDee Lamb is amazing in his own right, but Jerry Jeudy, I don't know if I've seen a better route runner in college football in my time. Not only my time, I used to watch college football a lot when I was younger because I watched everything when I was younger. But now that I'm watching college football again, so I could do stuff like this, the only guys that ran routes that I can remember, there might be more, but as far as in college, Julio Jones ran routes amazing in college, and so did Mike Thomas. But I really think Jerry Jeudy's the best route runner I've seen in college football. Like, it's absolutely insane. There's no one around him. There's never anyone around him. It doesn't matter if it's short, intermediate, deep. It doesn't matter. And then the place that they're really underselling him is his after the catch ability. He makes dudes look silly. Obviously, those areas are going to be smaller, but he not only doesn't get touched throughout his route, and when he's catching the ball, if he gets dudes one-on-one, even sometimes two-on-one, two guys on him, he makes them all look silly. They didn't get touched in the run after the catch in most instances. I really, really love Jerry Jeudy. Apparently he scored low on the Wonderlic score, but like, it don't matter. The most intellectual part of being a wide receiver is being able to run those routes, know when to sit down on them and stuff. And he's so good. Jets take Jerry Jeudy at number 11. Number 2, speaking to CeeDee Lamb, the Las Vegas Raiders select CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb. He's bigger than Jerry Jeudy, has a little more weight, and he kind of plays. People like to liken him to DeAndre Hopkins. I would say I don't like doing the player comparisons. When I do the player comparisons, I don't say that he's going to be that player. I say his style of play is similar to that player's. Through the routatry and going up and getting the ball and things of that nature, he reminds me of D-Hop. But I don't think D-Hop is as good after the catch as some of the other wide receivers in the league. I mean, he's good after the catch. But CeeDee Lamb reminds me kind of more of like Jarvis Landry, like a dude who's really good after the catch. He catches the ball, and that's the reason why I have him lower than Jerry Jeudy. Obviously, he's not the route runner. I value being good at route running because you ain't never going to get fucking touched if you're good at route running. You're either going to be catching the ball for first down and getting down, catching the ball for first down, getting out of bounds, or you're going to be running all the way down the field wide open, catching touchdowns. You're not going to get hit as much. A big part of CeeDee Lamb's game is his run after his catchability. And this isn't like I make dudes miss, which he can do. This is like, I've never seen, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it in college football because he's not the biggest wide receiver. He's like 6'1", 198 pounds. This kid literally takes on like 3, 4, 5 defenders at the same time. Like, if you're into college football, go flip his tape on. I'm talking like he'll catch the ball. It's making me laugh. He'll catch the ball and be surrounded by 2, 3, 4 dudes, and like there's dudes jumping at him, he's shrugging them off, he's stiff arming dudes, he's running out of that pile, making a dude miss, run up the sideline. Like, he plays, it's gonna sound dumb, but like, you know how Marshawn Lynch runs? He plays like if after the catch, like as if you took Marshawn Lynch, made him 3 inches taller, and made him 190 pounds. Like, he plays like that after. It's fucking hilarious. Dudes can't tackle his ass. The reason why I still think he's going to be good because he's an underrated route runner and he catches absolutely everything. He'll be good at the next level. It's just, I'm not sold on guys whose best part of the game is run after the catch in the NFL because the guys are bigger, faster, stronger. The angles are tighter. The areas are tighter. That being said, still, I love CeeDee Lamb. He's going to start day 1 for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's from Oklahoma. Number 13. Now, I couldn't decide what I want to do here for the San Francisco 49ers. They obviously traded. That pick with the Colts where they sent DeForest Buckner, whatever, and they got a pick back. The run on wide receivers continues with this pick. I'm not as high on Henry Ruggs as everyone else. I do think he's a solid route runner. But I think a lot of the reason why Henry Ruggs was so wide open all the time, obviously he's fast, but everyone gets open in college football. I think a lot of the reason why Henry Ruggs was so wide open was because with everything Jerry Jeudy does on that team, and who's the other kid there, Devontae Smith and stuff like that, he's going to get wide open down the field because the point of having Ruggs in those three set formations is to take the top off defenses. So you got to pick your poison. It's like, that's why I hit the end zone so many times. It's like, okay, you got to double cover Jerry Jeudy because he'll go everywhere on the field and get wide open. You got that other kid, Devontae Smith, underneath and over the top. Ruggs was just always open. But I do think that's what San Francisco needs. I do think they need a guy to stretch the field because Deebo Samuel came on strong last year, proved to be a starter, and you can line Deebo up all over the place, but if you add Henry Ruggs to this equation, it's really going to help Deebo Samuel out. I like Henry Ruggs here for the San Francisco 49ers. Take the ball. He's probably going to be valuable in the return game too, I would assume. So then the way this shakes out, luckily for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get their tackle, which in my opinion is their only dire position to me. They could use a safety and maybe another running back, but they needed an offensive tackle for Tom Brady. And Jedrick Wills, you can make the argument Jedrick Wills ends up being the best tackle in this draft. Super explosive. He played right tackle at Bama, but I think he could play either side. I don't know who their other tackle is over there in Tampa Bay, but yeah, they get their guy. He could play. He's stout in the run. He's good in pass sets. I like Jedrick Wills a lot. And he goes number 14 to Tampa Bay. Now 15, the Denver would have loved it if Henry Ruggs fell to 15. They'd have been shitting bricks. They would have sprinted up to that podium and just drop kicked Commissioner in his face and just been like, here's your card, bitch. But they don't get him in my draft with me having the 49ers select him. So I'm taking who I think is truly the second best corner in this draft, which is C.J. Henderson out of Florida. I really love C.J. Henderson out of Florida. C.J. Henderson's a beast. He's really he's just as probably good as a pure man guy as Okuda is. Like he's just I don't even know how to explain. He's just sticky. He's got crazy quickness. He's just so good at reflecting routes. I don't think there's any real weaknesses in his game. I would say he needs to get better at tackling. But I think that when it's all said and done, he could possibly be just as good in the coverage game as Jeffrey Okuda. So I feel like if they weren't going to get a good wide receiver, Denver's got to double down after they lost their best corner, who's one of the better corners of the past 5 years, and C.J. Henderson. You have to take not C.J. Henderson. Who's the Harris, I think his last name is. They lost him. So you got to take C.J. Henderson here. And then 16, I went back-to-back corners with the Atlanta Falcons. People are sleeping on Christian Fulton from LSU. I like Christian Fulton. I think he's one of the more well-rounded defensive backs. 6 foot, 200 pounds. I would say he fits best in a man scheme. But he's just a well-rounded player. I mean, he needs to get better at tackling just like some of the other corners in the back, but he has really good quickness, really good at mirroring guys. He doesn't have too bad at ball skills too. A lot of these corners in the upper half have really good ball skills, but I think Christian Fulton's like a really solid guy. The rest of these corners in this draft have issues. They're not as well-rounded as the other corners. After Fulton, after 16, it drops off a tad, but there's some guys that I still really like at the corner position. So now number 17, I hope this happens because I don't know the ceiling of this player, but when I watch the film, I love this player. Kayvon Chason is who I have the Cowboys drafting at 17. I don't think there's a good enough. I think they were. I was explaining this to someone the other day who's a Cowboys fan. I love the Cowboys front seven, right? I love their linebackers. I love the front seven guys if they play to the best of their ability. Last year, some of their, like, who's that? DeMarcus Lawrence. He had a down year, but as good as their linebackers are, I think that they're lacking. I think the defense is lacking an attitude. My friend's a Giants fan, and he got mad at me last year, or he got mad at me earlier, like a few weeks ago, when I was saying how the only reason why the Cowboys didn't make the playoffs was because they didn't play good enough defense. They were like 18th in overall defense or some shit like that. You know, Dak played well last year, and when you're 18th in defense and you're sitting there, they went 8-8. Like, that's the difference between making the playoffs. And it's not that they don't have the skill, the capacity to be good at playing defense as a collective. I seen a lot of lackadaisicalness, almost like not caring, not hustling. Dude, Kayvon Jason has rockets on his feet, and he has probably the craziest motor in this draft. This kid is all over the place, and if he's not getting to the quarterback or not getting a tackle for a loss, he's like running down the field, clunking into dudes. He's always in the play, and it's one of those things where you flip his tape on, and it's just, oh, there's number 18. Oh, there's number 18. Oh, there's number 18. There he is again. He's just almost in on every single play. He's freakishly athletic. He could possibly be the most explosive player in this draft. There was a play that I seen on his highlight tape. I don't remember who they were playing. And he had to man cover some dude, and he ran out in the flat. So he gets extended all the way out to the flat. He's almost at the boundary of the field. And he turns and looks, and it ends up being like an underneath screenplay. And the dude comes running up out of the blocking set, and Kayvon Jason flips his hips, runs 20 yards back into the middle of the field before this dude can even barely get positive yards, and fucking nails this dude like Brian Dawkins from the side. He's just an animal, and I think he's one of those dudes where he's a project, but if he gets with the right coaching system, I don't know who's the defensive line and the linebacker coach, but he's got all the tools to be a bona fide pass rusher, and he brings like this never quit animalistic attitude that I love in players. Like you're gonna have to fucking shoot him to get him to stop. And I think that attitude and that athleticism is something that's missing in that pass rushing core over there in the Cowboys. I think they bring him in. If they could coach him up, he's gonna be not only a solid player, but like, I think he could be like a leader style player. A lot of people think he's going to slip. So I've even seen someone say he could possibly slip out of the first round, but I feel like his athleticism and his intangibles and his ability to get pressure on the quarterback, he didn't have a super lot of sacks last year for LSU. They only had like 7 or 8, but he had a lot of pressures. And that just tells me that he's just not finishing properly. If he gets coached up right, those pressures are going to turn into sacks. Now, I said I was going all in on the offense with the Miami Dolphins, so I feel as though Miami can get a tackle, like I said, in the second round. So number 18, after you take your franchise quarterback, you turn right around and you take Justin Jefferson, wide receiver out of LSU. This is one of my favorite players in the draft. I love Justin Jefferson, 6'2", 192 pounds. He could play any spot on the field, whether it's XZ, he could play the E position, he could play in the slot. It does not make a difference. He's got buttery routes. Smooth route runner, just a smooth operator out there. His route running is so slick, catches everything. Best ball skills in the draft. Best balls. He does not drop anything. He will catch everything. You can line him inside, outside. He's deceptively good after the run too. I mean, he's got a slight frame, but after the catch, he's up the field, making dudes miss, always grinding for extra yards. He's just super tough, super competitive. He's my favorite wide receiver in the draft. Like, if I had to pick a favorite wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy's the best wide receiver. If I had to pick a favorite wide receiver, Justin Jefferson's my favorite wide receiver. Kind of reminds me of Tyler Boyd from the Bengals. I mean, a lot of people don't watch the Bengals. They suck, but Tyler Boyd, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. But I'd say he's got more like a tougher run after the catch streak, but just really good route runner. And I just think Devontae Parker came on strong last year. You put him on the other side, Devontae Parker. You have Tua back there. And don't worry, some more offensive people are going to start coming off this board here from Miami. So Justin Jefferson, that's the pick at 18. Number 19, the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm having them take Jaylon Johnson, cornerback out of Utah. Now, this is one of my sneak picks. This is one of my sleeper picks. I love Jaylon Johnson out of Utah. He's really, really, really good in man sets. Really, really good agility, really good at mirroring guys, has great ball skills. And like his stats are deceiving because, once his junior year came, dude stopped throwing the ball his way. He's 6 foot, 190 pounds long. I love everything about Jaylon Johnson. He's not as polished as the top of some of the high level corners in the draft, but I love this player. I think if someone gets him in the second round, I'm projecting because this is what I would do. But if someone gets him in the second round, they're going to steal. They're getting a guy that can start day one, in my opinion. Number 20 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have the first safety coming off the board, Xavier McKinney. I do think Xavier McKinney is the best safety, pure safety in the draft. 6'1", 200 pounds. He's really good in coverage. He accelerates really well. He's one of those guys where you think he's not going to get there, and then he just accelerates up. It makes plays on the ball. I love his attitude. His tackling is really good. He's one of the more probably the most consistent tackler out of all these guys. He's got good zone coverage skills. I would say his strongest points are how versatile he is. He could tackle, zone coverage, man coverage, ball skills. It don't make a difference. He's the only safety, in my opinion, that should have a first round grade. I would say he can get beat deep. I don't know if that's because I don't know if it's because he's out of position or physically he can't match up with dudes deep, but I've noticed he can get beat deep, but that's his worst trait, but that could be coached up. That could be schemed up. Jacksonville, yeah, and I think Jacksonville's going to have this trend where they go defensively because you're not taking a quarterback. You literally lost all your stuff defensively. If you could keep your running back, they got a couple guys in D.D. Westbrook and some other guys offensively. Get your quarterback next year. Start building the foundation of your defense. Maybe go. I only did it for 2 rounds, but they got picks in the second round. Maybe get your offensive lineman in the second round. But I like these 2 picks for Jacksonville. They just lost so much defensively. But this is one of my favorite picks. So this might be early, but a lot of people have Philadelphia taking a wide receiver. This one goes out to you, Cud. Darren's a diehard Eagles fan. But I have the Bengals taking Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen is a fucking animal. I have them taking the middle linebacker Patrick Queen out of LSU. The reason why, so a lot of people like the other kid there from Oklahoma, and you'll see I actually have him based off what I think is most valuable for these teams. I have Kenneth Murray sliding in my draft. He's not a first round pick. Because I just love Patrick Queen better, and the Philadelphia really needs a guy that can make tackles. And the reason why I have Patrick Queen here is because their front seven is already stout. They just need a kid that can be a nasty off-ball linebacker, cover, tackle. And I think with those front seven players, I would say the only weakness in Patrick Queen's game is that he's just not that big. He doesn't have a lot of actual functional strength. He's 6'1", 227 pounds. Not a lot of guys at that size do. But I think he's so elusive. He actually is really good at taking blockers on because he's explosive. He beats dudes to holes. I think with his length and his toughness, his speed and agility, I think he's going to be okay in that department. I think behind that defensive line for the Eagles, I think they will plug him in. If the Eagles draft Patrick McQueen to that situation with those defensive linemen, there's a chance Patrick McQueen could be defensive rookie of the year next year. He will go over 100 tackles. He just has such short area quickness. He's so explosive. His IQ for knowing where plays are going to develop, and his pursuit lanes are just so good. He's a freak. He reminds me of a better version of, I can't remember that name. An undersized linebacker who was good for like 3 years. Fuck, he played for Detroit. If anyone can remember it, write it in the comments if you want. I forget that guy's name, but yeah, Patrick Queen, candidate if he gets drafted here to be in Defensive Rookie of the Year. So now I didn't know who to mock to New England. I really didn't. They lost a lot of pieces. They could go quarterback here, but I wouldn't go quarterback here if I was the Patriots, because the Patriots could potentially be bad. Maybe they could swindle a trade, but I have a feeling I just don't think the quarterback's left fit with New England, so I'm not taking a quarterback. I'm taking who I think is one of the more well-rounded defensive ends on the board, and that's AJ Epinesa. 6'6", 280 pounds. He could play all along the defensive line. I mean, you could probably stand him up if you had to. That's who the Patriots are going to pick. I really didn't know who to pick for him. They could have gone so many different ways. They could use another safety, wide receiver, quarterback, but I don't think the quarterbacks in their situation. You're going to be asking a quarterback to come right in Belichick's system and start right away, which you're going to have to do that eventually. You lost Tom Brady, but I just don't think it makes sense here. So AJ Epinesa out of Iowa, number 23 to New England Patriots. Number 24, I have the third quarterback coming off the board to New Orleans Saints, Jordan Love. I personally like Jordan Love. He's my third best quarterback. I know that's a hot take. A lot of people, for whatever reason, the NFL likes Herbert. But Jordan Love, 6'4", 225 pounds. He's really good at extending plays, and he's really good at throwing the ball on the move. He's sound mechanically. He had a really, really, really good year his junior year, but then a lot of dudes left. A lot of guys got injured. He's asked to do everything, and he kind of had a down year his senior year. But what I seen out of him his junior year, I really, really love. He has a lightning quick release, a really high release. He follows through with it. He's got really good arm strength. He can throw between zone and stuff like that. He doesn't really have the chance to throw against a lot of man coverage, because a lot of those teams in that conference, they don't play a lot of man. They play a lot of zone and shit. But I would say the places he needs to improve is reading defenses better. But I think if you get a chance to sit behind Drew Brees for 2 years, you can sit behind Drew Brees for 2 years and play Sean Payton's system, dude. I think that's perfect. If I was them, I'd pull the trigger on Jordan Love. Oh, this one goes out to oh no. I actually skipped a pick. Sorry, Ton, if you're listening. 22, Minnesota Vikings. I have the Minnesota Vikings. They need a wide receiver and they need a corner, so that's what I got for them in this draft. So at 22, I have them taking Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor is a prospect that I'm high on. He's similar to the mold of Henry Ruggs, where he takes the tops off defenses, but there's things. Ruggs is the best deep threat in the draft, but Jalen Reagor is a really good deep threat, and there are things that Jalen Reagor is good at that Henry Ruggs is not good at. I like some of the things that Jalen Reagor can do. He's got some things going on that you really can't teach. He's a little undersized. He's like 5'11", 195 pounds. But what's weird is, for a small guy, he's really good in contested catches. Like, he goes up over big dudes. He goes after the ball aggressively. He's like hopping into guys, plucking the ball out of the air. He meets the ball at its high point and just plucks it out the sky over guys. He's tough. He's good after the catch. You could use him in the return game too. I like Jalen Reagor. There's rumors that he's not the best at understanding route concepts. Hopefully you can coach that up. But I like the skill set and the explosiveness you bring. You put him across some Thielen. I feel that'll help Thielen out. You stretch the field. Now you don't have Diggs. Jalen Reagor's the pick at 22. And then we're going to hop those other two picks. Minnesota Vikings again. They select AJ Tyrell. I like AJ Terrell. He's one of the better corners. He falls a little bit for me, and that's mostly because he's really good at man and he can tackle. He's a decent tackler. He plays stuff. He has really good man skills. He can play in zone. He reminds me. I don't know who he reminds me of. Some people say that heard someone the other day say he reminds me of Drake Kirkpatrick. The only downside with AJ Terrell is he's got a lot of penalties, which Corner's been a revolving door sometimes over in the Vikings. They take him almost every single year. He's got a lot of holding penalties. I don't know if that's because his mirroring's bad or if he can't stay one, but I like the build you get with him. He's long and rangy, got a lot of energy. And he's really good at staying consistent and following through with chasing dudes throughout the duration of their routes. He's really good at press coverage too. And I think the Vikings like to play that press coverage style. So yeah, I got AJ. Is it Terrell? Terrell? It's not Tyrell. It's Terrell. AJ Terrell out of Clemson. Oh, we're back with Miami at 26, baby. Adam's going to love this. Normally I don't do this, but our running back is coming off the board, baby. Jonathan Taylor. Taylor's an absolute beast. The Miami Dolphins do not have a running back. They need a running back to spell Tua and the boys. This is a kid who hasn't had injuries. He's a workhorse, and his only issue is he fumbled the ball a little bit, but he's super explosive, has really good vision. I'm talking like really good vision. Slow to it, blow through it style. He kind of reminds me of like a smaller, he weighs about as much, but he's shorter, he kind of reminds me of Joe Mixon a little bit, the way he gets in and out from between these, the run blocking gaps and makes his next move and reads the next level. I like him, and he didn't get asked to catch a lot of balls, but I think he has the ability to catch balls. I love him. I think he's the best running back. Not only is he the best pure running back as far as pure running, IQ, being patient, slow to it, blow through it. I think he can catch the ball. He fumbled the ball a lot. That could be shored up. I mean, I don't think any team ever not. I mean, Adrian Peterson fumbled the ball 6 times his rookie year. Or some shit like that. I don't think any team really was like, oh, this running back, we can't draft him because he's fumbled the ball. Like, dude's fumbled the ball. You just gotta, if you just sure that up, you could plug him in day one. He's gonna start for them. They don't have any good running backs. None. Everyone got all high on that one dude that was there. What the fuck was his name? Christ, I can't even remember. He's so irrelevant. But yeah, 26. Miami Dolphins take their bell cow back. Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. So now, normally in my other mock drafts, we get to the end here, the first round, I had Seattle taking either an edge rusher. Sometimes I had them taking a wide receiver, but they take Josh Jones, who could go earlier than this. Josh Jones has all the athletic tools, but he's a raw player. He's a senior. I don't know if he's actually played throughout the whole entire thing, but he's just really athletic, and like his footwork is just not really good. He's sloppy all over the place. It says he's a redshirt senior. I don't know how many seasons he actually played, but he excels in the pass rush. He's got that type of build you want for our pass defense, pass blocking. He has that build where he's really got really long arms. He got good balance. He's got really good hand techniques and punching power. He just needs to be coached up. He could go earlier. I've seen some mocks where he's going like 14 to, who's there? Is it not 14? I've seen some mocks where he goes to wherever the Broncos are at. That 15, I think 15. But Josh Jones, offensive tackle, Seattle Seahawks. Now, this is where it starts to get fun for me because Adam tried to tell me why not a lot of wide receivers are going to go in the first round. So how many do I got? I've got 3, 4, 5. I think I got 7. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Yeah. I got 7 wide receivers going in the first round. So at number 28, and this is one of the sleeper picks. Some people have him as a second round talent. However, I do not. I wasn't high on him at first. I was not high on him at first, but after I watched more of his tape, and I was like thinking like, God, this guy reminds me of somebody. I have the Baltimore Ravens selecting T. Higgins, wide receiver out of Clemson. Now they could use another offensive tackle. They could use a linebacker. you could get a linebacker, in my opinion, to come in and play better than you could find it's easier for you to find a linebacker free agency that's serviceable than to get a player like I think this kid is. T. Higgins, man, he's a beast. 6'4", 215 pounds. Didn't run at the combine, but in tape, I've seen tons of plays on tape where he runs away from people. He's a really good route runner for his build, especially in the intermediate pass sets. He's really good at breaking inside and coming across the middle of the field. Catches everything. He's oddly physical. He just goes up and gets the ball over guys. He's slender, but he still manages to use that frame to hop over the top of everyone and catch everything. He's good after he's underrated after the catch, actually. But he could turn up, face dudes, run through dudes. He literally dude's a black hole. He literally catches everything. He has these massive ass hands. Some people say they remind him of Devontae Parker, but for some reason when I watch him play, and he's probably not going to be as good as this player. But when I see T. Higgins play, especially when I see him come across the middle, it reminds me of AJ Green. Like how AJ Green would break in on those 10 and ins and those seam routes, and Andy Dalton would just put it up high where no one else can get it. He's just leaping up and catching the ball. I mean, that could have been some of the reasons why AJ Green had injuries, all these high passes, but he's a come across the middle of the field, go up and get it type player. I love T. Higgins, and I think he'd be perfect for Lamar Jackson. I think he'd be a perfect weapon for Lamar Jackson. They got good tight ends. They got a speed receiver. Now they got to get that big wide receiver on the outside that can run the route tree and go up and get the ball good in the red zone. If they get T. Higgins, it'd be perfect. So number 29, Tennessee Titans, they take Justin Madubuike. A lot of people don't have him going in the first round, but I think he's a well-rounded tackle. I like his explosiveness. He's just very explosive. A little undersized. He's 6'3", 304 pounds, but he gets off the ball really fast. He's got a weird build. He's not the longest guy, but I think I think he could vie for a starting position with the Tennessee Titans. And then number 30, I have my last wide receiver in the first round, Denzel Mims. I just like what Denzel Mims brings to the table. He jumped off a lot of people's screens at the Senior Bowl or whatever that thing is, but I just went back and watched his tape, and I like what he does. He's really good in the red zone. He's probably the best at the fade route. The back corner fade route. You throw the ball up to him, he's just going to go up and get it over everybody. He catches everything. I would say his best trait is his overall catch radius. It doesn't matter if you're throwing back shoulder stuff to the sideline. If you're throwing it down the field, you can just put it up where he gets it. He's got better speed than people think. He ran a 4.4 something. I would say he's an okay route runner, and that could be polished. I just don't think he's like that quick laterally. But I definitely think he's a potential first-round talent. And out of all the wide receivers that are left, I have him going to Green Bay. And 31, I have Trevon Diggs, cornerback, Alabama. I think he fits precisely what San Francisco likes to do. You can plug him in right on the other side of Richard Sherman. Who to better learn from? He's a really good zone corner. Sit down in those zones. He's got that length you covet from those press zone guys. He's 6'2", 207 pounds. He might be the best zone coverage guy in this draft when it comes to pure zone coverage. He's not the best tackler. But in terms of being able to play in that scheme, that Richard Sherman style scheme, I like him. He's a day one starter if he goes to that scheme. Last is one of my favorite players, Jeff Gladney. Now, he's a cornerback from the University of TCU. I have him going number 32 to Kansas City. And I like Jeff Gladney because I kind of like underdog players. And he's 6 foot, but he only weighed 180-something pounds. He's got a slight frame. He's phenomenal in man-to-man coverage. Really good at mirroring dudes, got really good ball skills. He's long. The issue is he struggles against big wide receivers. I watched him play against Texas, and he really struggled against Colin Johnson, that kid that's like 6'6". I mean, anyone's going to struggle against a dude that's 6'6". But he just really struggles against big bodies. Other than that, like, he's got attitude. He's willing to tackle and get in there. He's never injured for a dude that's that slight frame. But he's lightning fast, really good in transitions. He's a fluid athlete. And his willingness for a smaller guy, he just sticks his head in there and tries to tackle people. He reminds me of who's the kid that got drafted was it last year or the year before, that he's a spitting image of the kid who got drafted by the Packers there. Jair Alexander. Reminds me of Jair Alexander. So now we're into round 2. I only did 2 rounds. Cincinnati Bengals, number 33. We take Cesar Ruiz. Best center on the board. He could play guard, play center. He's a freak athlete. Some people thought he was going to break. He's super strong, punchy. Some people thought he was going to break the record, Stephen Paez record. Fat chance of that. Bench press at the combine. But he's just one of the only interior offensive linemen where I don't see any bust factor in it, and we need interior offensive linemen. Could have gone tackle here for the Bengals, but I love Cesar Ruiz. Plays with a fucking attitude. He's intelligent. That's a 33rd pick. So finally, Indianapolis is in a similar situation, even more so because they were better this year as the Dolphins were in. I think at number 34, if you're Indianapolis, you probably got to take a quarterback because there are some things to like about Herbert, the arm strength, the mobility. The problem with Justin Herbert is he's a 4-year starter at the University of Oregon, 3 or 4-year starter, and his decision-making and his consistency is just not there, and it never developed. It never developed over time throughout his time there at Oregon, and that's a big issue for me. Like, if you play for 4 years and you're playing against good competition when you're in Oregon, it's like, how did you not fix those things? You had 4 years to fix those things. A lot of teams would replace your ass. That being said, like I said, there are things I love about him. He's super mobile. When you take away the accuracy issues and the decision making, he reminds me of a more slender version of Josh Allen. Big time arm, and that's the thing, is his consistency and decision making. He's not gotten better at that. But I think with his raw skills, you're not going to get a good quarterback next year because Indianapolis could be a playoff team this year, possibly, and then he gets to sit behind one of the most accurate quarterbacks ever in the history of the National Football League. He gets to learn behind Phillip Rivers. I just think it'd be a good spot for him to go. And it's a second round pick, so he's not going to have a big contract. You could take him there, sit him behind Phillip Rivers for a year or two, see if he develops. Justin Herbert, 34th overall. A lot of people have him going like top 5 and shit. This is me making the picks. I'm not into it. I'm not on the Justin Herbert train like a lot of these guys are. Number 35, defensive tackle Ross Blacklock to the New York Giants, or not the New York Giants, the Detroit Lions. 6'4", 305 pounds. He's another guy that's, flying up draft boards, and he's one of these dudes he's just a straight up beast. I mean, he's got it all. Power size, he's got a great motor. You could line him up on different sides of the line. He's one of those guys that could just push the pile, He has to deal with a lot of injury issues, and TCU sometimes has sometimes pumps out prospects that end up being busts, but I like what Blacklock brings. He's just a solid D tackle. Again, New York Giants, number 36. I have them getting that tackle that I talked about back there. Ezra Cleveland, I think he's a left tackle eventually. You might be able to play him at right tackle because he's solid. He's solid in the run game, but where he excels is the pass blocking. He comes out of Boise State, 6'6", 310 pounds. He eventually could probably be the replacement for Nate Solder. They could have gone the other tackle there. I think I pick him later down the line and just plug that guy in at right tackle who's a mauler, but I would go Ezra Cleveland here because you're eventually going to want to move off of Nate Solder. Number 37, the Los Angeles Chargers doubled down on their offensive line and take Robert Hunt out of Louisiana. I like Robert Hunt a lot. He's a fucking load, dude. 6'5", 336 pounds, dude. He's just a fucking beast. He would fit in a lot of different schemes, gap schemes, power blocking. He's just an animal when it comes to pushing people out of the way. He's just a big, powerful cat. Nasty run blocker. And they're going to run the ball a lot probably this year over in LA, and I think he'd be perfect. He locks onto dudes and he just fucking buries them. I love Robert Hunt. He could be a potential first round pick. If people needed more offensive linemen, him and a couple other interior offensive linemen would probably go in the first round. 38, the Panthers wait and get their middle linebacker, Kenneth Murray. He slides based off what I think these other teams need. I mean, I'm not high on Kenneth Murray as much as everyone else does. I mean, he's really good a tackler. Like almost every linebacker coming out now is a really good tackler and is really rangy. He's just a guy that flies sideline to sideline. But I would say he's not the smartest linebacker. His decision making is not that great. His pursuit lanes are kind of a mess sometimes. And I just for me, when I watch this tape, there's just so much I didn't like. I slid him, but with the proper coaching, he has the physical capacity to be a good starting linebacker. Let's just hope that Carolina can coach him up if they get him. Oh, the Miami Dolphins at 39. We're going tackle Austin Jackson. Austin Jackson projected to be a left tackle, 6'6", 310 pounds. Played left tackle for the Trojans, UCLA. There's a lot to like here. He has really good athleticism. Is another guy I need to coach up. He's lacking in technique. But I think he's a promising prospect. You can coach him up. If he goes there, he's gonna start. So he's a really good run blocker, in my opinion. I think he mauls people more than he gets credit for. He's a tough guy. He's a legit tough guy. Plays with an attitude. You got to tackle and you run your stud running back right behind Austin Jackson's ass cheeks. It's a wrap. I think if Miami hits this draft right, Miami. I hate saying this about Miami because it's like they're like good one year and then they fucking just suck for 3. If Miami hits in this draft, if Miami gets all these players, Miami's gonna be tough out in that division at least. And then this is hands down one of my favorite players in the draft. I know I've said that about a couple guys, but this guy is one of my favorite players in the draft. I think he's got a first-round talent, but based off what the teams need, I didn't plop him ahead, and that's Curtis Weaver, defensive end from Boise State. I have him going to the Houston Texans. Houston Texans don't have a first-round pick, but they really need defensive linemen bad. And after losing your defensive end and Jadeveon Clowney, you pick up Curtis Weaver. Curtis Weaver, he's getting a lot of flack because of his build. I always ask Darren the kid's name. I think his last name's Barnett or whatever. He's a defensive end for the Eagles. He's their starter. He's playing really well. He got graded similarly to how Curtis Weaver got graded because a lot of people just don't like that he's not physically in the best shape of some of the other defensive ends. But guess what? He's way more skilled than a lot of these defensive ends in this draft. Yeah, he played in Boise State, but he was a fucking terror. He had the highest pass grade, I think, of any was a Pro Football Focus that he had the highest pass grade of any defensive end this year. I think he's a beast. I think he's a starter, like a bona fide starter. I would honestly, my boy Chad, if you're listening, that's the guy I want to drop to the Bills. I don't think he drops to the Bills, but I would love it. I mean, obviously you want him to get drafted higher so he gets paid more, but I'd love to see him drop to the Bills. That would be fucking amazing. He would start for you guys day one, but he's going to go to Houston. Houston, he'll probably start there. What I love about this player is he's just, and it's the same thing with the Barnett guy. Just because you're not the best athlete, all these defensive ends, there's skill to pass rushing. He's got amazing hands. He's got a wide array of moves. His hands are just always active, just chopping and slicing through dudes, trying to punch at them, and he's just relentless. And I honestly think they stood him up a little bit. I think he's super versatile too. They stood him up a little bit sometimes out there in Boise State because they got like a hybrid scheme, and he has a really high football IQ. He's super intelligent, flexible. And he's got a nonstop motor. The dude's fucking cranked all the time. His worst trait. And look, his worst trait. I got the notes here for him. I wrote it down. Derek Barnett. That's the dude's name. I wrote it down. Derek Barnett. He reminds me of Derek Barnett. And that dude's one of the better defensive ends in the league right now. Love Curtis Weaver. It's unfair that they're calling him fucking fat and shit. Well, guess what? He's going to get after your quarterback at the next level, so they can all fucking suck it. Cleveland Browns. This guy might go earlier. Grant Delpit. Grant Delpit's a good prospect. He's really aggressive in the pass game, as far as he's really good at jumping routes, and he's really physical with wide receivers. He's one of those guys that could just jump a route in a millisecond. He's up the field running with the ball, interception. He's long. He's like 6'3", 200 pounds, I think. Smart player. His only trait is his worst trait is his tackling, and I don't think he's not physically capable of tackling. He plays super aggressive on the line of scrimmage, through coverage, when he goes up to stop guys from catching the ball, when he drives on routes to close on them. It's like, I just don't think it's not his willingness to tackle. I think his technique needs to be shored up. But when you play behind Patrick Queen and those dudes over at LSU, you're probably not asked to fucking make the majority of the tackles. But yeah, I mean, if they get him, if the Browns get him, that's a good pickup at that pick. Number 42, this kid dropped for me. Noah, I don't even know how to spell his last name or pronounce it. Noah Igbenogany, I think it's how it's pronounced. This kid is he's just a raw athlete. A lot of guys were high on Igbenogany. I don't even know how to say it. A lot of people love him because of his freakish athleticism. He's a decent zone guy, but he gets beat. He gets lost a lot in transition when guys are transitioning their routes against him. And I think he has a hard time understanding the coverages and he's good physically in zone, but his concepts for understanding where he's supposed to be in certain schemes, I don't think is that high level. I think he'll slide because of that. He's a project. He needs to be coached up. But with his sheer athleticism and the fact that, Jacksonville needs corners, they'll take him there. Chicago Bears take one of my favorite offensive linemen, who for some reason is never getting any love. He's not getting any love even in the second round, which I don't get it. I watched his tape and I was like, man, he's a fucking animal. Nate Muti from Fresno State, 6'3", 307 pounds. Dude's a beast. Really athletic. It doesn't matter. He's stout and pass, really, really good in the run. He's got a really high IQ. You could play him at either center, right guard, left guard. He's just an animal. I like him to go in the second. Some people don't think he's going to go in the second round, but I think he'll go in the second round. Fresno State's not known for their players, but I like him there. I think the Chicago, they kind of really need offensive line really bad, and Chicago's one of those enigmas in this draft. They don't have a first round, so that's who I got going there. Indianapolis Colts take Michael Pittman Jr. in the second round. I was watching his tape the other day. I was impressed. Michael Pittman, 6'4", 225 pounds. He's faster than people give him credit for. He blow the top off a defense. I've seen him do it a bunch of times. He's good after the catch, just runs through dudes, catches everything, attacks the ball to its highest point. His best traits is obviously he catches everything in his physicality. I mean, he's a tough guy. I want to say his dad, God, here Tom would know who this guy is. His dad was a running back for the Buccaneers. His last name was Pittman. I don't know if his dad's name was Michael too. I would say his best traits are his hands and his physicality. He's hard to bring down. I think he has good top end speed, but he's one of those guys where it doesn't show until he gets to the top of his routes. He doesn't accelerate great. Some people are comparing him to Dwayne Bowe. I think he has the potential to be better than Dwayne Bowe. I never liked Dwayne Bowe. Just that name is terrible. Fucking Dwayne Bowe. But yeah, I love Michael Pittman Jr. Brings an attitude to the wide receiver position. He reminds me of like a less athletic Mike Evans, kind of. That's his style of play. Mike Evans is an elite wide receiver, by the way. The next running back comes off the board to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is my second best running back, DeAndre Swift. I think he would go good alongside Ronald Jones. Played well last year. A lot of people thought he sucked, but he had almost 1,000 yards, even though he was injured. DeAndre Swift, he's a do-it-all type back. His best ability is he's really good at catching the ball out of the backfield. He's not the best at reading blocks and things of that nature, but you can get him on the outside, run a lot of scat back running plays. You can line him up all over the place, so catch the ball. I don't even think he's the second best pure runner in this draft. I think there's a couple guys that are better pure runners than him, but he's a versatile player, and I think he'd fit well with Tom. He can catch a lot of balls out of the backfield, being the third down running back with Tampa Bay. Denver Broncos take one of the more exciting prospects, Laviska Shenault Jr. Now, Laviska Shenault, if he wasn't injured all the time, would probably have a first-round grade, but Laviska Shenault's a beast. He kind of reminds me of Anquan Bolden, he's just not as good as a route runner. His style of play. This is a guy who said when he was getting interviewed that his favorite route was the direct snap. So this is the type of dude you can just get the ball in his hands. He's going to make people miss. He ran slow at the combine because he got hurt. He ran a 4.58 at the combine or something like that, or a 4.6 flat, but he pulled up like 3 feet away with like a hammy or something. But I think he's faster than people expect. On tape, he looks fast to me, but he can do everything. He can run through you. He can jump over you. He can juke you out. He catches the ball. I think if he gets with the right team, they could coach up his route running. It's not polished. I mean, he kind of only runs underneath stuff, and then they put him on flies and posts and stuff like that. He has no intermediate route running whatsoever, but he's the type of dude where it's just you can put him on a slant, bubble screen, you can run him over the top. He has really high upside, but he has a lot of injuries. I think he's a really versatile player. I think he's one of the better offensive players in this draft, but he slides for me because he's always hurt. Number 47, I have Atlanta Falcons taking Neville Gilmore, just another well-rounded defensive tackle out of Oklahoma, 6'2", 304. To the modern day, he's a little undersized, but his best traits are his footwork. He's a nimble player, is really good in pass rushing. He can move the pocket and get pressures, but another one of those guys where he has a high motor, and because of his 6'2" frame, he's not the longest guy, but I do think at this position, I like him for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really don't know what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do. This is just my pick. They can go so many ways. They need an offensive tackle. They need an interior lineman. Another guy that's dropped on mine based off what I think the other teams need is Antoine Winfield Jr. Some guys got a first-round grade on him. I don't argue with that. But I have him going to the Chicago Bears. This is a kid that's a very intriguing prospect. He can do absolutely everything. He's 5'10", 195 pounds, but he could tackle the fuck out of dudes. He could play in man. He could play in zone. You could bring him up and play in the slot on wide receivers. He's like a safety slot, like nickel corner type guy. He's just really, really versatile. He has a really, really high football IQ, has a real good knack for the ball. He's not the rangiest player. Like, he could play a lot. He could play safety, he could play corner, but he gets beat down the field often. And if you get a big guy on him, big dudes tend to win on him and things of that nature. But you can line him up all over the place, and he just makes smart decisions. He's just a tough as nails football player. So Antoine Winfield for the Chicago Bears. Dallas Cowboys, I have Damon Arnett, the cornerback from Ohio State. Now, I actually like Damon Arnett's film. Some people try to think. The one scout said he was like thought he was Darius Slay. I don't think he's Darius Slay. His best traits are his man ability, and he's really good in man coverage. Yes, he doesn't tackle like Darius Slay, but I don't know. I definitely have a second round grade on him, but I don't think he's Darius. I don't think he's Darius Slay. Whoever fucking said that shit's crazy. Darius Slay is really good. He kind of reminds you of Darius Slay, the build and all that stuff and the style of play, but apparently, disclaimer, apparently some people aren't as high on him is because he's immature. Like, he runs his mouth to the point where it's like it's just too much. And he gets flags and stuff like that. And like, people talk about how he just doesn't shut the fuck up. He's one of those cornerbacks. He's like that one cornerback where you'll be beating him the whole entire game, and then the quarterback throws like an overhead pass and has nothing to do with you, and it's an incompletion, and he's like pumping his fist going, yeah, like he did something. Like, he's that guy. But he's got some talent. I don't think he's Darius Slay, but I have him going to the Cowboys. They really need a cornerback. But hey, it fits. The Cowboys tend to take on guys like that. Los Angeles Rams take Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks is kind of flowing up people's draft boards. Jordan Brooks, he's a mean-looking motherfucker. Jordan Brooks is all physicality, all athleticism. He's big, physical. He's got range. He's got this combination of size and speed. He's a Mike linebacker. You put him in the middle, you tell him to go get the fucking football. He's just got this. He plays with a fucking serious attitude. His worst part about his game, he's not the best in coverage. He kind of reminds me of the linebacker that we have now in Cincinnati, who was our starter last year. He actually played okay. Jermaine Pratt. Kind of reminds me of Jermaine Pratt. He's got all the tools. He needs to get better in coverage. He needs to improve in all of the zone coverage, or all coverage. He gets like out of place in zone and stuff, but he's a sure tackler. Los Angeles Rams need a linebacker after losing their best linebacker, so I got Jordan Brooks there. You could put him in the middle of that defense, and he'll go out there and make tackles for you. So this is a guy who I don't understand isn't up on people's draft boards, who I really, really like. Tyler Johnson, wide receiver of Minnesota, and that's who I got going number 53 to the Eagles. 6'2", 205 pounds. He's a really good route runner. I like his route running. He plays for Minnesota, so he's not playing the best corners, but he got really good lateral movement and sits downs out of his breaks and comes out of his breaks with authority. I mean, I didn't expect, someone told me he was a good route runner, but I didn't expect him to be as good as a polished of a route runner he is. He really goes up and gets the football too. Is what I love about it. He doesn't have he's not the biggest guy, but he plays bigger than he really is. I want to say he had 90 catches for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. He's not the best athlete, but he makes up for it with that route running. And I don't understand. Some dudes have like a 3rd round and a 4th round grade on them, but I love his route running, his contested catch ability. His route running, he lacks speed and the burst, but I like the player. Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota. I like him a lot better than the kid from Michigan that everyone's high on there, Devon Peoples-Jones. But Tyler Johnson could possibly start for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they got wide receivers, but their wide receivers are usually injured. Number 54, I would like this to be, this is the Bills pick, and I'm rooting for the Bills, but I would like this to be it could potentially be the pick I was talking about earlier, Curtis Weaver, but this defensive end for me just slides down the board. Yetur Gross-Matos, he's just so raw. Like, the physical capabilities there, 6'5", 264. He's got all the physical tools. He's got long arms and stuff, but he's just not consistent as a pass rusher. He has a hard time, knowing when to attack, use the proper moves to attack dudes, and he gets out of place all the time. And I notice when he'll implement a type of pass rush against a guy, and if the dude even somewhat gets him off his trajectory, he kind of gives up and stuff. Like, that's just something I've seen. He's not the best against the run, in my opinion. Plays a little high. He needs to be coached up. But I think someone in the 2nd round will take a pick on him because of his raw tools. So, Buffalo, they need a defensive end. They need a pass rusher. A little bit of a project, but Yetur Gross-Matos to the Buffalo Bills. And then I have the Ravens. They need an offensive lineman. I got them taking Nick Harris. He's an undersized offensive lineman. I would say he could play center. He's probably a center. He's good. He's athletic, good at getting out and blocking in space and things of that nature. But since he's undersized, 6'1", 193. He's not the longest dude. I like him as a center, not a guard. But he's flown up. He's played for the Pac-12. He's a senior. Got a lot of playing under his belt. Better pass blocker than a run blocker, in my opinion. But he's going to need to be both if he wants to start for Baltimore, because they're going to do both. And then the Miami Dolphins taking an offensive line. We're going all offense, baby. Jonah Jackson, 6'4", 310 pounds. He's a versatile player. I think he could play. I honestly think Jonah Jackson could play all over the offensive line. I think they're going to have to try to figure out where they want to use him. Really good at pass blocking. You're going to need a guy to come in and pass block for Tua. Plays a little high for my taste. Like, he doesn't really sit down into his pass block sets, but he's still a solid pass blocker, and I think that's what they're going to need. You need to add more offensive linemen there. You just got to stock these offensive linemen up if you can get to it. You can't have his ass hurt all the time. And then we got Los Angeles Rams again. This is a guy that I think, in my opinion, if you use him right, could be a borderline 1st-round talent. And I got the Rams taking Zach Bond, edge player from Wisconsin. I love Zach Bond's tape. He could play off ball. He could play as a run thumper, I think. He's a really good tackler. He's good off the edge. he's undersized for an edge rusher. Usually undersized edge rushers don't do that well. 6'3", 240 pounds, but he's a really, really smart player. Super smart. He's smart enough to where he can recognize what's happening pre-snap and make adjustments. You just see him get the sense that he weasels his way into the backfield a lot and gets to positions that you can only get to if you knew to a degree what was coming. He takes really good angles. He's not scared to come downhill, and he can blow gaps up. As far as his IQ, it's like you want a player like this in your linebacker core. I don't think he's just an edge guy. I think you can line him up all over the place. I have him sliding because he's undersized. But if Los Angeles picks him up, they could start to rebuild this linebacker core. You got him and Murray. So this player is another player that gets mixed reviews off people. I got Minnesota taking Jordan Elliott, interior defensive lineman. I think he could start. I think he could potentially start. 6'4", 315 pounds. As far as interior defensive lineman, he had one of the best grades overall from Pro Football Focus. Just a physical beast. He needs to be coached up, but his play strength is just off the chart. Really good at exploding through gaps. He has really good gap discipline. When I watch his tape, he's just always creating penetration. He's just always penetrating. I don't know if I seen any plays on his tape where he's just getting, blown out of the water. He's just super athletic, nasty, stout. He needs to be shored up in the pass rushing game, but I like Jordan Elliott a lot. I'd like to see Minnesota get their hands on him. Seahawks. This is the one for me. This wide receiver in my opinion, should drop. Brandon Ayuk. 6 foot, 201 pounds. His best trait is his yards after the catch, but like we talked about with CeeDee Lamb, it's hard. He played for Arizona, and they play nobody, and it's like, okay, well, who are you getting your runs after the catch against? Because you're doing it against like a mid-grade conference set of players. That's what you bring most of the table. He's bad at getting off of press coverage and routes. He's not the best route runner. He drops the ball. He kind of reminds me of a guy that's like your fourth or fifth wide receiver that you bring in on packages where you want to get quick shit, a little quick little outs, bubble screens, stuff like that. I don't see him being a pure wide receiver. He's like maybe like a slower Tavon Austin-ish type of guy. Like you just get the ball in his hands and hope he could do some shit. Maybe he can make a couple guys miss. But I like Brandon Ayuk at first, but when I really started to sit down to watch his tape, I'm just kind of like, he seems like another guy to me. Number 60, Baltimore Ravens, J.K. Dobbins. A lot of people are on J.K. Dobbins, running back out of Ohio State. 5'10", 217 pounds. I like J.K. Dobbins. I actually do like J.K. Dobbins. He's got really good vision. I think he's the second best pure runner in this draft. He's got good vision. He doesn't fumble the ball. He gets in and out of his cuts really good when he's good at catching the ball. He gets in and out of cuts good when he's running routes. I think he's an underrated pass catcher. Just a smooth player. And I think he plays bigger than he actually is, too. I think he run inside, outside, and I think it's going to be good. I think he'd be a perfect complement for Mark Ingram there. Catch the ball in the backfield of Lamar Jackson. I would love to see him go to the Baltimore Ravens. Tennessee Titans, they go edge rusher, Terrell Lewis. This is another dude who falls mainly because of injuries. I think I have this right here on the thing about he's had in 2017. He had an elbow injury that sidelined him, and then in 2018 he had an ACL injury. He's got the size and length and intangibles, but he's just always hurt. This is a guy who could be a borderline first-round player, but he's hurt all the time. The things I like about him is he's got a good jump off the ball. He's got a really good quick step and decent hand techniques, and I think he has some potential. It's just he's hurt. He's always hurt. Terrell Lewis out of Alabama. Plus, for some reason, when I thought of edge rushers, I want to remember the last couple of edge rushers that came out of Alabama. I can't remember if they were any good. I don't think they were that good. Then number 62, I got Bryson Hopkins, tight end, going to the Green Bay Packers, Purdue Boilermakers. 6'4", 241 pounds. This kid's a really good route runner for being a tight end. Really just a butter route runner. I love this kid's ability to get in and out of his breaks, and he's really good at sitting down and finding zones. And I think he's going to be better over the top than some people think. His issue is he doesn't block at all. Who's your prototypical? You line him out, split side wide receiver. You're not looking to take Bryce Hopkins and put him in on a power run play. He can't block to save his life, but he's just so good out there in the open field running routes. Yeah, the blocking is going to struggle, but then again, you're playing with Aaron Rodgers. You don't need to be able to block. You just got to get open. Number 63, second to last pick. I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back from LSU. Going to the Kansas City Chiefs. I like Helaire. I'm not as high on Helaire as a lot of other people are, but I do truly think he's the fourth best running back in this draft. He's got one thing I love in a running back, and he's got this. I wrote down he's got balance. It's the balance. The balance is underrated as far as your ability to see contact coming and be able to plant yourself and brace yourself properly for contact. It's hard for dudes to take him down. He runs through arm tackles. He's actually decent at catching the ball in the backfield too, which helps out with Kansas City. I would just say he's not the fastest running back, but I like everything else about him. He's got, he's had an injury. He had a hamstring injury, but I don't think you need to be fast really to be the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think you need to be able to come out of the ball and catch the ball out of the backfield. I think you need to be able to pick up them tough yards, and I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire can do that. I like him there for Kansas City if they can get their hands on him. There's only 4 running backs I like in this draft, and he's the 4th one. Last, I didn't know where to go here of number 64, but Seattle needs more offensive linemen. I took Trevor Biadasz. 6'3", 321 pounds. He's another guy that can play all over the interior line, center. You can play him at either guard spot. He's one of those guys that's just an animal as far as being competitive. He's just a beast guy. He's really good in the run block game, and I think it's going to help them out because I don't really think you have to be this crazy pass blocking team with what Russell Wilson brings, but it'd be nice if they could run the ball a little better. You can line him up front and get a little extra push on that offensive line. I think it'd help them out a lot. And yeah, that's my mock draft this year. I thought about doing one with trades, but no, I figured I would just go strictly with no trades and just pick what I would do at these positions. So let's just see how this whole entire thing shakes out. I'm interested to see the teams that I think could trade before we close this. Everyone that thinks the Bengals are trading can fucking fall down a flight of stairs. Washington could, we'll do some trade scenarios before I end this. Washington could possibly trade. Personally, hear my scenario out for Washington. You were top 10 in sacks last year. I think they were 9th or 10th. Yes, you got a pass rusher that's aging in Ryan Kerrigan. But I have a sneaking suspicion that Dwayne Haskins, is not going to play well next year. And I do think the Redskins are going to be bad next year. I think that the Redskins will be one of the teams in the sweepstakes for OG Sunshine, Trevor Lawrence. Personally, if I was Washington and I was able to trade, I would have traded out of this spot back to Miami. I would have asked for a decent little haul from them. I would have drafted either a tackle or Jeff Okudah and then use those other draft picks to build my team up. You still would have sucked, and then you can go get Trevor Lawrence next year because Dwayne Haskins, I have a feeling that he's not the guy. Detroit could do the same thing. Detroit could trade back because they could easily get Jeff Okudah at number 5. So if they did the same exact thing with Miami, let Miami hop up. If I was Detroit and no one had traded yet in the top 2 picks, I would just call Miami and lie and be like, yo, Los Angeles is trying to get up here, so if you want this motherfucker, you got to come get him. Talk about Tua. Trade back, get a bunch of picks, and take Okudah at 5. Teams that could trade up. I could see Jacksonville trying to trade up to get one of the quarterbacks. Probably Tua. I could see them trying to trade up to take Tua. I like Gardner Minshew. Fun fact, Gardner Minshew played good last year. He threw 21 touchdowns, only 5 picks. Jacksonville will be in the sweepstakes next year for OG Sunshine, so I could see them doing it. I wouldn't, though, because I think Trevor Lawrence is a better player than Tua. So I would stay put. Teams that could trade. I could see Tampa Bay. If they don't get Jedrick Wills, I could see Tampa Bay trading back and get one of the mid-tier tackles later in the first round and get some more picks. Like, what if at Tampa Bay sitting here and Henry Ruggs is still on the board? You know how many teams would hop up to try to get Henry Ruggs? Denver would swap spots and give you draft capital for Henry Ruggs. Where is it? Philly would hop up. Philly would trade with you, the hop up to get to Tampa to get Henry Ruggs. There's a couple teams that would hop up. I could see New England trading out of 23 because, like I said, I didn't know who I should have mocked there to them. I don't know who the fuck they're going to take, really. I just picked AJ Epinesa because I think he fits what Bill Belichick does with that squad. I can see them trading back and getting draft capital next year, maybe. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I think I don't know if any teams would probably trade up. I mean, Indianapolis ain't gonna need to trade up in my mock because Herbert is not that good. In my opinion, he should fall there. But yeah, this is my mock draft. Just to let everyone know, I just wanted to do this little quick one for you guys, anyone that's listening to. I'm going to do a live episode Thursday, and I'm just going to do I'm going to sit here with the boys and chat, and I'm going to do a live podcast for the draft. I'm going to sit, do my reactions to the draft, freak out when people get traded and shit. I'm sure Adam will probably fucking call me freaking out when a trade happens. Another tip, real quick, speaking of Adam, I could see the Giants trading back too with either Miami or Los Angeles and getting a fuck ton of picks. Because if I was the Giants, that's what I would do. If I was the Giants, I'd trade back to 5 or 6 and I would still get a tackle or still get Isaiah Simmons, whichever one I wanted. So, but Adam probably called me freaking out when these trades start dropping. But yeah, I know a lot of my friends were all sitting in quarantine. I just hope that everyone's doing well during all this. My sister and I went out earlier today to go buy groceries and shit, and for the first time I wore one of those face masks. Holy fuck, that shit was annoying. Her and I, we couldn't fuck. My sister's like, my glasses are fogging and all this shit. I couldn't stand it, but hey, we gotta do. We're supposed to start wearing them at work and all this shit, so I'm gonna post this to the page, to the Facebook page, and hopefully, I mean, normally I do a pretty good job at guessing where all these dudes are going to go and stuff like that. But with the trades, since I decided to do it without the trades, you know, it is what it is. There's going to be trades, my whole entire thing. It'll just get blown to bits. But yeah, so that's my 2020 mock draft. Hopefully, I mean, some of the teams take the guys that I think they're going to pick. But yeah, I'm going to hit you guys with we're sponsored by Smoke Eaters. Smoke Eaters, one of the best and highest quality CBD flower oil sellers and vape card sellers here in New York. Smoke Eaters is out on 2165 County Route 12 Central Square. They also have a Facebook page. You can just type in Smoke Eaters Facebook page. If you end up going over the store, talk to Flo. She'll hook you up and show you what products they have on deck. We're also sponsored by Croquet by Alicia. Find her on YouTube. She crochets literally anything: clothes, stuffed animals, blankets. It doesn't matter. She could crochet it all. We are also sponsored by the Illuminati. We are sponsored by the Deep State. This podcast is directly funded by, all the 5G shit going up. That's a joke. Yeah. Thanks for everyone who tuned in to listen to my mock draft, and hopefully everything goes well and I can pop out another one there on Thursday. Everyone stay safe out there with the Rona, and I'll holla at you guys. Later.